All right, questions for our panel? Comment? We're going to try to stay away from comments. Sorry, I hate to say that. You wanted to follow up with a comment that they had? Okay. We're going to allow a comment?
Yes.
All right, we're allowing a comment. Hold on, here you go.
Well, it's just to reinforce what Beth said about the role of community foundations. And I mean, this is an example. Here we are coming together, but it took the community foundation and McLaren to drive this. I mean, we have what it takes to identify the pit. We've got opinions and we've got data, and that's what it takes to identify the pit. It feels to me as though we're at a time when people are drifting apart rather than coming together. This has to be an activist. If we're really serious about this community, it needs the community foundation. We also have AMB West, which has been very generous in helping to pull things together with Tanya Roop, who's here. We also have something called Live Well 49, which is a coalition that brings together lots of the organizations. There are a number of other coalitions, and now we're talking about bringing them together. So we have to be working at it. We have to constantly be working at it. And I think this is a wonderful role for the Community Foundation. And the fact that we're here means that they're being successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Question? Okay.
Hi, first, thank you for a great conversation. One of the points that was made was that a lot of problems will require, in part, policy solutions, and so this is to any one of us. Here tonight are several candidates or incumbents for public office. What advice do you have for us in this particular very, very divided time? How can we step forward and play a positive role? Thank you.
Great question.
Well, let me take a quick stab at it. I don't know of any of the issues that were identified that are partisan. They're not. So I think candidates, and this legislative session has a $1.8 billion surplus. So, they'll certainly want to return that to the taxpayers, and some of that is going to happen. But I think with respect to some of the resources you might need to address some of the housing issues and some of the other affordability issues, the child care issues, I would sit down for coffee. I mean, I was a legislator myself for 20 years. I loved meeting with constituents and where they were. Meet them at the coffee shop and bring as many people as you want and talk about the issue and say, yep, I think there is a policy change that we could work on. And then you start building the network that's going to help you over there to get that done. So I think the legislators and candidates would welcome the opportunity to take something from their local community. And I guess I didn't care. I didn't ever ask anybody when I was a legislator, by the way, Republican or Democrat, whatever it is, to give me the issue. And I'll find a way to get it in front of the right people, that'll get you a good hearing, on that issue. And I know you've got those people, I'm sure, running for office here.
Well, I'll just echo that. And to you and any others who are running for office of any kind, I just want to say thank you. It's just a really hard time right now to hold those roles and to be a public service. So thank you.
Well, I got this thing here. Oh, great question. Thanks for asking it. Geez, that might be our one of our pits, is how to talk about policy. And but Mike and I were talking about a mutual friend, Dan Kimmis, who's written, he lives in Missoula, and he was a mayor, he's served in the legislature, he's written books about democracy, which I'm quite an admirer of what he's put into that discussion. But he was describing 3 things we get to do when we are fortunate enough to live in a democracy. We get to express ourselves. We have the opportunity to choose to inform ourselves. And then finally, we have the opportunity to deliberate, because these things are complicated. And I think when you're thinking about policy, is that the last thing we want to do is to rush to judgment, because they are complicated and they're very nuanced, and we're struggling right now in terms of how we look at information. So this is an example, the presentation you had today, were really good effort to try and just understand people's opinions, but also share data of trend lines of things that are important to you. So if I was a legislator, I would, be trying to do my best to make sure I was looking at all the information and getting correct information. But then that's what legislature is about, to deliberate. And I think some of us are sometimes losing trust that people are willing to do that when they're elected, is to actually deliberate and find that thread, that best possible outcome between different points of view. And so I think to serve and be a public servant, to be a legislator, is a really courageous thing right now. So I admire you if you're one of those candidates, and any other people in the room. But if we can begin to reimagine a culture in those houses where we respect difference, but these are complicated issues, so we need to deliberate. And so Dan was just saying, this may be the most important behavior as citizens living in a democracy, is to be able to engage in deliberation.
Thank you. One more question before we wrap up. Raise your hand, I'm short. One back there. Okay, thank you. Oh, Barb, you got it. Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Montana and in Livingston as a child, and there were always neighborhood discussions. That's something I don't see as an adult in Livingston. And I wonder, why isn't it possible for us to really begin to engage the voiceless people in Livingston? This is a wonderful gathering, but the neighborhoods is really where the discussions really ought to be taking place and where the listening should occur. So I'm just wondering if that's something we could look at in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point, and it speaks to some of what was said here today about having different, 20 different facilitators and taking, going to meeting people where they are, going to breakfast, bringing them breakfast. This is I can only speak for the Community Foundation. This is an iterative process, right? We put this together not completely knowing where it's going. We do believe that we're on the right track, and that by reflecting the values and the points of agreement and the data back to the community, that's a really important role, and there's, to our knowledge, no one else really doing that. So it's our promise to you to keep doing that. Where it goes from here, we can't do it alone. I think maybe Mike just said that, right? We are not going to solve, the Community Foundation, are not going to solve these issues. They will be solved by the people in this room and the people in the neighborhoods, like you say. It will take everybody. So I can't say for sure where that will go, but I think you make an excellent point.